Rafaela was happy because she was about to marry Mateus, a very promising young man who had just graduated from university and was enrolled in a postgraduate course. His mother, Rebecca, considered him promising, but she didn't like his chosen partner, a nurse at a hospital. What kind of match was she for her studious son? Rafaela had already bought an expensive dress and tried it on several times, admiring her own image in the mirror. But 2 weeks before the wedding, something happened that not only ruined the wedding but also Rafaela's life. As she was walking home through the park, she suddenly heard a baby crying behind a bench. Rafaela looked behind the bench and saw a baby there. The curly-haired boy, no more than 6 months old, was lying in a basket and crying. Not only was his hair dark, but his skin was too. Rafaela lived nearby and took the baby home. She asked a neighbor to look after the baby while she went to the store to get what she needed. The neighbor looked at the child and started scolding Rafaela. "You're foolish. What have you done? Why did you bring him home? What are you going to do with him now? I'll take him to the police tomorrow." Rafaela calmly replied. "Oh well, how will you explain that? You'll be dragged into courts and interrogations. Why do you need him? So what should I do?" "You shouldn't have taken the baby. You're getting married soon. How will you explain this to your fiancé?" Rafaela responded. Mateus is good, he'll understand." But Mateus didn't understand. Moreover, he suspected that Rafaela was lying and being unfaithful. How long have we been seeing each other? 6 months? Maybe you left him somewhere and now want to force him on me." "No, Rafaela, I'm sorry." "Well, I don't want you or your special child." "Mateus, how can you say that?" "I told you the whole truth," Rafaela apologized. "You should go to the South African consulate and find a husband there, especially since you already have evidence of your involvement with them." Mateus left. Rafaela cried tears of resentment all week. She tried calling Mateus, but he didn't answer the phone. Finally, her mother, Rebecca, answered. She shouted at Rafaela and demanded that she leave her son alone. "You're not a match for Mateus. You're embarrassing him. You made a mistake, Rafaela. You should have revealed your secrets after the wedding. And now it's too late." "It's no longer my problem," Rebecca said. Rafaela felt she was on the verge of a hysterical crisis. You know," as she said, "I ran into him on the street just yesterday. Anyway, forget about Mateus. He doesn't remember you either. He's at Lourdes' birthday party today," Rebecca explained. Rafaela slowly set the phone down and approached the child. "Well, little one, we're in trouble now. It's okay. We'll figure something out. We just need to get out of here. Our apartment is rented, we won't be able to afford it. Let's go to the village. My grandmother gave me a house there, we'll live there." It had been a full 5 years since Rafaela left the city to live in the countryside. At first, the townspeople shook their heads at Rafaela, who took the boy everywhere. But gradually, they got used to it and stopped asking questions. She named the baby Bruno and managed to obtain a birth certificate for him, albeit with difficulty. Rafaela's medical degree played an important role in that. No one from the town wanted to go to the village, so she became a nurse at the hospital, and they stopped preventing her from registering her son. Life passed slowly, each day was like the next. Bruno called Rafaela a mother, and she even took pride in it. To her, he was her child. And so they lived. Rafaela endured poverty with strength. She had long forgotten Mateus and her past life, resigning herself to the fact that she would live there with her adopted son. But fate had other plans. One day, a large car stopped in front of Rafaela's house. A tall, dark-skinned man and a young, elegant woman stepped out. A young man followed them, wearing a white t-shirt and jeans. Rafaela looked at these people with surprise but understood that they were there for a reason, and she would have to part with the child. "Hello," the woman began, slightly distorting her words. "We have something important to discuss." "Please come in," Raffaella said. At that moment, little Bruno looked into the room. He gazed at the guests with surprise, and the woman rushed toward him with open arms as soon as she saw him. She was crying, saying something and rocking the baby in her arms. The tall man couldn't contain his emotions either. He hugged the woman and the boy simultaneously. Then, he began kissing Bruno, who didn't understand anything. As the emotions subsided, Raffaella closed the door and seated everyone at the table. Now she knew that these were Bruno's parents. The driver, whose name was Charles, briefly explained that the tall man was the consul, and the woman was his wife. In their home country, they held very important positions. Their family had fallen victim to political intrigues, and the child had been taken from them. For a long time, they believed he was dead until someone reported seeing a white woman with a dark-skinned baby. Charles himself had assisted them, and here they were. A few hours later, they left, taking Bruno, the heir to the throne, with them. Raffaella was worried and fell ill for a week. Then, Charles visited her and assured her that the boy was doing well. Now he will be raised in the diplomatic corps. They are wealthy, and Bruno has a wonderful and successful future ahead of him. "Thank you, Charles, for coming to give me this information. I truly worry about Bruno. I've grown accustomed to him," Raffaella said, frustrated. "Yes, but that's not the only reason I came. It's just that I've never met anyone as kind as you, Raffaella. I admire you. You're not afraid of judgment or difficulties. I'm a man, yet I can barely perform such acts. And the good education you've given the boy, his ability to speak and even read, is remarkable," Charles said. "Honestly, I was scared. I was terrified, crying at night, calling myself stupid. But I felt sorry for Bruno. I don't know why I thought he'd be lost without me. His ability to speak and read isn't thanks to me." "Bruno is a very bright and intelligent boy," Raffaella replied. Charles pondered this and asked her to marry him. After some thought, Raffaella agreed but asked him to wait at least 2 or 3 months. "I have nothing, Charles. I know you're not wealthy either. Let's skip the wedding party. But I still need something for it. We can both save up for the rings. Also, I have to leave here. I want to settle my affairs and hand them over to the new nurse. Maybe someone will show up in the meantime." "All right, Raffaella. I'll wait, but let's set a date right now," Charles said. As time passed, on the eve of the celebration, Charles arrived and took Raffaella with him. He brought her to a hotel and said she would spend the night there. In the morning, he would send a stylist and an address. "Just don't worry. I want to take care of everything myself. I wanted to surprise you, I promise." Raffaella looked at the dress box she had made herself. The next morning, she was awakened by a knock on the door. She needed to get dressed and fix her hair. When Raffaella saw the dress, she was very surprised. "But how much does this dress cost?" "Don't worry about that. Let's do your hair and makeup," said the stylist. Raffaella looked at herself in the mirror and couldn't believe what she saw. It didn't look like her. The girl was scared, but at that moment, they announced that the car was ready. As she headed to the wedding palace, her fears only grew. People in expensive suits waved and smiled. Ladies in beautiful dresses looked on. Charles stood at the door, smiling. "Charles, what does all this mean?" Raffaella asked. "You're marrying a high-ranking diplomat." Her surprise was boundless. "But you're just a driver," she said. "No, I'm just a friend of an ambassador whose child you saved. By the way, here they are." Raffaella turned around. Little Bruno was running toward her. She knelt down and hugged the baby. Applause erupted from the audience. All the guests already knew their story. 15 years passed. Raffaella was very happy, married, and raising a daughter and a son. She was also successful in her profession, serving as the chief surgeon at a renowned clinic. One day, she had a patient, a man with serious fractures. Raffaella had operated on him for several hours. When she left the operating room, she was approached by an older woman. "Doctor, tell me, will my son survive?" "Yes, Rebecca, your son Mateus will live. I did everything possible and impossible." Raffaella walked wearily toward the rest area after saving her ex-fiancé's life. Meanwhile, Rebecca, perplexed, approached a passing nurse. "Nurse, who is that?" Rebecca pointed to Raffaella, not recognizing her. "She's our best surgeon, a doctor sent by God. Not only did she save your life, but you'll likely recover. She married a high-ranking officer. They have 2 children. The children have dark skin, right? You've heard the story before too, haven't you?" Rebecca asked. "Well, of course. Once she saved a consul's child. Her father is an ambassador, I think, but I'm not exactly sure." The nurse stopped talking. Mateus and Rebecca felt a pang in their chests. How could they have been so wrong? Who knew it could turn out like this? If they had helped Raffaella back then, maybe Mateus's career wouldn't have ended so early. Now he was a technology teacher in an ordinary school, drinking heavily. He drove drunk and ended up in the hospital. How much time and money would it take to recover? Should I apologize to Raffaella? Maybe she'll forgive me and help me, Mom? No, I don't think it'll work, Rebecca sighed sadly. That's the truth. She thought about how unfair life is. Some people have a home, a husband, honor and wealth, while others, poor and miserable like my Mateus, have nothing. Yes, everything in this world is unfair. Oh, how unfair it is, Rebecca concluded.